Sure.
Learn a lot more tonight, I guess.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a few seconds. So we'll give you a chance to find a place to sit. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to see all of you, all of you that come out and show up for this informational meeting. It's obviously a very important issue that we're looking at for McCook and McCook Public Schools. And it's an issue that really impacts our whole community. And so thank you very much for taking interest and wanting to come in and find out more about our project. We're going to have there are some other information meetings and some tour nights that we're going to have coming up. Tuesday, October 8th today, so you're here, thank you for coming. Wednesday, October 30th will be another information night, much like tonight. And then we also have some open houses, some tours where you're going to be able to come in and just visit our facilities. Now, if we have time tonight, we're prepared to walk folks through the building tonight and provide a tour today also. We'll see how much time we have as we get towards the end of the evening. Also, we're open to doing individual or group tours. If you'd like to do that, you can contact the superintendent's office or Mr. Lyons, who's our junior high principal. He does a really outstanding tour, and he actually has some group tours already set up for some groups. So if you have a group that you think would be interested in going through the building, maybe even asking a few questions of Mr. Lyons or whoever's giving that tour, those are available to you as well. Our agenda for today, we're going to start off, I'm going to kick us off here tonight with our process and current challenges. Then I'll be sharing the stage with our architects and engineers, with some finance folks, and also with the construction management company, Samson's. So I'll start off with processes and current challenges. And our processes. So this is a very, the timeline on this project goes back for many years, goes back decades actually. My involvement and really direct or involved involvement with this in the Board of Education started around 2013 when we took an initial look at our facilities. And at that time, we looked at our high school and our junior high. So we've actually had kind of ever since that first analysis, we had an idea that we were going to have to deal with the junior high building as a bond issue of some kind in the future. At that time, it was determined that the junior high structure wasn't as high quality as the high school. So at that time, we decided to invest in updating the high school. And over the last 13 years, or 10 years, 11 years, we've been investing in our high school, updating classroom spaces, updating commons areas. And the way that we've been doing that is we've had our maintenance staff go room by room and drywall, drop ceilings, new lighting, new technology, new wiring, new carpeting, really getting those to be modern classrooms. And so if you were here prior to those updates as a student, or if you came into our building and now you go into one of those classrooms, they all look completely different. They've been completely updated. We're not done with the high school. We're still continuing to do common spaces this upcoming summer, likely to get into our hallway spaces, which if you come into a basketball game and you get into our main hallway, you can see that pretty much the way it's been since it's been built. Maybe a few changes have taken place over time. but we're going to start working on those spaces again, doing the same type of work, drop ceilings, drywall, those types of things. Why did we choose the high school? Because it was determined at that time that that's something that we could actually do. The junior high was a project that was beyond our capabilities. Recently, we've reevaluated our facilities. We had engineers, architects go through there. You can see we engaged with them. So we evaluated, engaged architects and engineers to look at it, to give us some direction on what we can do with the junior high. So we're moving way into the future now. We're talking around 2021. We started this process. Had folks, we contracted with W Design and their architects and engineers, had them go through our facilities. And one of the things that we had really 5 goals, and I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit. So if we go and consider long-term goals and plans, we had really 5 goals at that time. We wanted a structure that was going to improve our academic classrooms, our environment for our students and our classroom spaces. And that was a really important function for us as we go through this presentation tonight. And if you get to go through a tour afterwards, you're going to see how our academic spaces aren't the best around. There's definitely a need for improvement there. Another goal was safety. We have safety issues. We have multiple points of entry on the junior high facility. And we also have students that cross between the 2 buildings on a regular basis every hour. So junior high students attend classes in the high school, and high school students attend classes in the junior high. And they walk between the buildings every hour. And so that's a safety concern that we want to eliminate. Another one is we wanted to improve our industrial arts classrooms. We'll have a chance to take a look at some of those spaces right now. They're really not up to modern standards. We do our best to bring in great equipment for our students to work with and to practice with, but we don't have everything we need. And so we don't have all the space we need to do everything we need, to be quite honest with you. And so that's another thing that we're looking at updating, or one of the main goals. Another one was performing arts spaces. Part of this project is a new auditorium and updates to our performing arts classrooms. That includes choir, band, and our drama spaces. All those we look to improve and update with the new auditorium. And that's going to involve a pretty measurable or a pretty significant remodel of portions of the high school building. And then our last goal was to have a building that was going to take us well into the future. We want a building that's constructed to last 80 to 100 years. If we're going to spend money on this project, it needs to go beyond, it needs to have a long lifespan. I wish that was the case, from our perspective, I wish that was the case with the current facility that we're in. And we wouldn't be here if we had, if this was built to last 100 years. We wouldn't have this meeting today. Conceptual designs, so we talked, we had engineers and architects go through it. We talked about our goals. We consulted with community members. We had a community steering committee group give us advice on what they thought we should do. We had staff members talk, they talked to every single staff member that has a class in the junior high or works with junior high students, got their input, and that includes custodians and cooks, the whole 9 yards. And then they created some perceptual designs for us. They basically made that first conceptual idea of what we could do. And we kind of priced that out. We had work, we went through a process of selecting a construction manager, picked Samson Construction through that process, did some initial estimates on the cost of that construction, came in really high. We were right around $57 million, $56 million, and that was before we had added engineering fees and architecture fees. So we sent that back to our design folks at W Design, said, and they knew, we didn't really have to say anything, so when we had that meeting, it was pretty obvious we needed to make some significant changes to that design. Through that process, we wanted to stick to our main goals. We wanted to make sure that we had a building that's going to have a long lifespan. We wanted to make sure we improved safety. And we definitely wanted to have classrooms that were quality academic environments for our kids to spend time in. After that, it came back with a bond. We came back, did some more estimates, did a lot of work. This took a few months, right? It took a few months to try to work through all those costs and all those redesigns. Finally got to a price of $43,500,000. After that price, once we got down to that price, we took an action item before the Board of Education, and they voted on that price, and they voted to put that bond before the community for them to have, for the community to have input on whether they did, or whether we do or do not want to build that structure. And then, and then the next thing's coming up, we're going into the future now. November 5th is our election day, so it's going to be on your ballot on November 5th. It's an opportunity for everybody to have a voice on whether they want that project to come to fruition. Current challenges. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the facility that we have right now. These are just a handful of the items that we're dealing with in the junior high currently. Building deteriorating due to settlement and age. So we do have some structural issues with the junior high. This is going to become more evident if you take a tour of the structure or of the building, and we actually have some pictures of that as well. Outdated mechanical systems require frequent maintenance. Just the age of the building requires us to deal with some pretty significant mechanical systems, HVAC, boiler systems that are outdated and are going to need to be replaced soon. Roof leaks in multiple areas, and part of that is we could put a new roof on here in the meantime if we wanted to, but that's about a $400,000 project. So if you're potentially replacing the building, probably not a wise use of money. Exterior walls showing signs of deterioration, including cracks in various places. You can see those if you do an inspection of the building. Inadequate classroom sizes, performing arts spaces, and outdated career and technical education. That's what CTE stands for. So that's our industrial arts, our agricultural arts classrooms. And so when we talk about inadequate classroom sizes, we have some classroom sizes, they're just fine. But we have a lot of classroom spaces in this building that are too small for the number of students that we have in our buildings. Facilities do not meet a lot of the ADA requirements, and that's folks with disabilities, mobility around the building. We've done a lot. You can see over here on that set of stairs, there's a lift that goes around and lifts folks up. So we do have to use that on occasion. It's not great, but it works. Need for improved safety features such as reduced entry points, already talked about that a little bit, and elimination of need for students to move between buildings. And then the big one, poor academic environment. And that again, if you take the tour, you'll see what I mean by that. And we'll have some photos, but the tour is better. All right, so this is a question that's come up a lot. We talked about not being Title IX compliant with the junior high school. Oops, is that me? Do I need to, sorry about that. Title IX has scared a few people because of the press that it gets. But when we talk about Title IX with this project, we're talking about the size of spaces for boys and girls. So specifically with our building, it's our girls' locker room spaces versus our boys' locker room spaces. And according to federal law, those are supposed to be of equal size. And that's not what we have here at the junior high. Our boys' locker rooms are significantly larger than our girls. And so that can create some issues for us with federal regulations. And so that's really the limit of our Title IX concerns. It really has to do with equity between boys and girls. Here's some pictures. I'm going to go and take you through the building a little bit with these photographs. If we look up here, let's see, I might go behind a computer here. I like to use laser pointers, and this app has one, so I think I can get it over here. All right, let's see. Maybe I can. All right, so if you look, you can see that. All right, so you can see cracks, and these are cracks that, and I can't talk to the engineering behind this, and we do have some engineers here who are going to be able to visit with you in a little bit, but these cracks don't just happen of their own accord. There's actually some foundational issues. And we have cracks in this one. This is a girl's bathroom. This is the main hallway that connects sort of the office space to the academic space. We have leveling. This door you can see has had significant shaving off just because of the building is sinking. Here's our one of our main entry points. You can see the space changing there, or the separation taking place there and the sinking taking place there. This is the back area where we unload and load our food service products, when we bring in big orders of food for the students for our kitchen spaces. And here you can see we tried capping and doing some things, but we still have separation between the building, and it's creating some significant cracks. And now we're getting some academic spaces. On these photos, you can see this top photo up here. You can take a look at that. Those are curtain walls. And our teachers have really done a great job of trying to make these classroom spaces work for them. There's there's not very good storage in these classrooms. So teachers have to make walls. They have to do a lot of things they shouldn't be expected to do to try to make their classrooms workable. But these curtains, there's classrooms on the other side of those curtains. So if this is an English classroom, there might be a social studies classroom over here and a math classroom over here. And all the while, everyone's teaching. And so you can hear multiple teachers talking at one time. I've met a lot of folks since we started this process who remember when it was first built that was a problem that they experienced as a student in the school. This is our electronics classroom. It's beautiful, shiny floors, and we do a great job. This was taken in the summer after we put down wax, and they look great. But this is an old band classroom that we have electronics, that we're teaching electronics in. Here's an example of a classroom where you can see we've just crammed every inch of that classroom with desk space, or desks. It's taken up the whole classroom. This is another industrial arts course classroom, and that is that drafting? I believe that's our drafting classroom. It's another industrial arts space. It used to be a choir classroom. Here's a hallway classroom. Mr. Bedner is here today. He used to teach in this classroom. Mr. Bedner, this is a 6th grade science classroom, and you walk through our 6th grade science classroom to get to our 7th grade science classroom. And so that's not great for, 8th, I'm sorry. I knew that. 8th grade classroom. So it's not a great environment, and we have some other teachers here who've been in that classroom. And then look at this industrial arts space. So that's a current that, you got a great, hopefully that project's still there if we take a tour. You can see some of the work our kids are doing. It's just truly amazing. We have great kids doing great work, but our facilities, this is storage. It's just not a great space to work in for our kids. And so we'll see that in near the woods area. Again, some more industrial art space. We have this is right here is great technology, but it's interesting how we have to vent that, take a big hose, stick it out a window, and it's a small space, it's a cramped space for industrial arts. This is our main industrial arts room. You can see table saws and lathes in there. Again, the floors are shined up, it looks good. It's not quite as shiny today, so if you do take the tour, we have been cutting wood and things like that. So, but it's a great place when it looks like this and when there's nobody in it. But when you get kids in there and they're starting to work and they're working with, go look at some of those projects. You've got bookshelves and you've got tables, and it's not a great space then. It's just too small. We have our gymnasium right here, and we have one of the main concerns with our gym, if you can see that, it's pretty small. That red right there is a stage. And we're not planning on taking the gymnasium down. We want to repurpose we want to remodel the gymnasium, but we do want to change its orientation so that we can do morning and afternoon practices. I'm probably getting too far ahead of myself a little bit here, but that stage becomes an obstacle for classroom and for practice time. So we still have a lot of early practice, late practice. If we can take out that stage and flip the orientation of that gymnasium, we can put a curtain in there, and then we can do simultaneous classrooms. You can have multi-classrooms going on at the same time. And you can also start to get away from the early and late practices. You can do boys and girls 8th grade basketball simultaneously versus doing a tandem. And there's another picture of that. That's on the stage. For classroom space, not a great academic space for PE. Here is a picture of our girls' locker room. And so it's hard to understand how this isn't Title IX compliant when you just look at this picture, but it's a small, very small space. And so if you take the tour, you're going to see the difference between the girls' space and the boys' space. Here's our boiler room. These boilers are original, and they don't have much lifespan left in them. They're getting to the age of the boilers that we had at the high school when we took those out. One of the problems with replacing these boilers is there is no access point. There's just a doorway in there. So they basically built the building around those boilers. So to replace those in the current facility would take some major remodeling of the facility. If you look, we have, and Mr. Lyons can talk about our kinked pipes all over the building. This water fountain has been lost to the settling and the cracking and the kinking of our water pipes. We're in this room right now, which looks pretty good, but you can see there, it looks again shiny. It works for lunch. Just understand, every student that takes a school lunch comes into this lunchroom. There's a small commons area at the high school, but if you want a Class A lunch, you come in here whether you're 6th through 12. We got a hallway space here. It's pretty jammed up when those doors open up, and kids are trying to pass down the hallway. It's an exciting place to be during passing period. And just some more pictures of our boiler area. All right, high school auditorium challenges. We're going to have a chance tonight. We're going to have some folks over at the high school if you want to go over and look at the high school auditorium and the performing arts space. Mr. Dickus and Mr. Curl are going to be over there to show folks that want to see that. But we can just go over that real quick. Insufficient lighting and general audience area. Original seating. We have the original seating in there, so we've gotten our dollars worth out of those. Auditorium and HVAC struggles to keep up with demand. It's a big space to keep heat and cool. General audience area cannot completely black out windows. Stage size is too small. Lack of off-stage storage space. Stage accessibility for set pieces is a challenge. Costume and prop storage is insufficient. We can't do band and choir concerts in there. All right, so it's not big enough. If you have the whole student body and the teachers, you can't put them all in there at the same time. It's too small a facility. Also, we can't host. We're the largest school in the Southwest Conference, and we can't host any of the performing arts competitions because the facility is too small, because the stage doesn't meet the standards. We don't have access points from the outside for loading and unloading. We don't have the off-stage space. We have to do all of our events at Minden and Gothenburg and the other school districts so when it's our responsibility to host, we host at a different school. And so that's a big concern of ours concerning our auditorium. And there's also the acoustics in there. You have concrete, you have cinder block walls, and those types of things as well. Band and choir challenges. We lack practice space. We have good size, but we lack space, and we lack storage space for instruments. And here's a picture of our auditorium, and like I said, we've gotten our dollars worth out of those seats. And did you want to say anything, Mr. Brady? I talked probably much longer than I was supposed to, but
I only want to take a moment. Considering I'm the one that's elected and put my name on the line and ask, some of you probably didn't vote for me, I'll be honest. That's just the way things go. As an elected school board member, what I wanted to share tonight was this process really started long before I was even elected to the board, which was 20 years ago. For those of you that remember, there was a blue ribbon bond committee in 2000-2001 in which the junior high was identified as a deficient building at that time. That's 20 plus years ago, in which we identified structural issues and problems with this building. We continue, so what I want you to understand from my perspective is every dollar that we receive of yours today is as much as possible geared towards supporting the student in the classroom. So when we need to do a construction project, we're taking from resources that we could be using somewhere else if we didn't have to spend them. So you do what you can when you can. Over the last 20 years, I've heard about the junior high as a project that needed specific and never could get to the point because of other priorities. Let's go to McCook Elementary. We consolidated 3 sites and saved taxpayers money for the last 20 years at one location. At that location, the building is still currently 70 years old, roughly on one half, retrofitted, and the other half is now 20 years old. In this situation, we can't retrofit one half of this building. What we're attempting to do is save a gymnasium that are expensive and keep, and what we're attempting to do is increase the amount of vocational, or the acronyms change all the time. For me, it's vocational education items, trying to expand the area and expand the resources in that, and remove fabric walls as the deciding divider between American history and math. I had 3 boys in the school system, and I can tell you, they're just like me, squirrel, and at the slightest sound coming from whether it was Mr. Bednar's science class doing something cool next door, they would have been distracted in their academic pursuits. Teachers overcompensate and do all they can to try and fix that. This project fixes that, and the design that they'll show you in a little bit does. I came tonight so that you know you voted for me or for somebody on this board We've been listening and working on this problem. This didn't just get put together last week. We've been working on it, we've been trying to identify it and put it together in a pattern that made the most sense.
Thank you, Mr. Brederick. Anything else from the group? All right, then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Wolfer and his team from W Design. Larry, are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Norgard. I'm Greg Wolford with W Design Associates, and I have with me tonight Stephen Granger and Matthew Kloss. They're the two architects that are responsible for coming up with the design that fits the building together and that you're going to see tonight. As Mr. Norgard said, we started this in 2021, 3 years ago, and he started out giving us some basic outlines of what District 17 needed. Fix the core educational spaces. He's already talked about why that needs to happen. Improve the industrial technology, industrial arts. Connect the buildings. Get rid of the kids running between buildings and fix the security issues the school has. Fix the code issues. As you talked about Title IX, there's also fire code issues in the main building, the way it was designed in the 1960s. Those codes don't apply today. There's ADA issues, which you mentioned. But then he threw the big one on us. He said, whatever we do, it has to last 80 to 100 years. What he didn't say is why he told us we had to do that. McCook has 4 buildings. You know, Central is the newest and in pretty good shape. The elementary the bond just finished on it. It's in decent shape. The high school they've been working on, that's 10 years older than this building, but it's a type they've been able to remodel and fix. Then we have the junior high. He told point blank, the patrons of this district should not be paying for 2 buildings at once. So this project, you just think you get a building that lasts 100 years, it's a circle. We still have to pay to maintain our schools, right? So the first thing we did when we came on, we did a review of this building. And yes, we determined we could fix this building. If we did that, though, it wouldn't solve all of the issues that he brought up, the connecting the 2 buildings, the way it's oriented. You know, the classrooms are not going to get that much bigger. We're still going to have a shortage with what they're doing. But the bigger thing is, we can do a fix to this building. You're going to get another 25, 30 years out of it. That's it. It's the way this building was built. You know, nobody here was responsible for that, but that's, you know, in the late 60s is when this building, mid-60s, when it started into service. So we can't fix some of the things. The second thing is, if we are going to fix this building, you're looking at 12 to 18 months of construction time doing that. What do you do with the 320 some odd kids that are in here while you're doing that? Plus the fact that you have a kitchen and all of the 2 campuses eat here every day. We've got to find a place to deal with those services if we're going to remodel this building. That means we've got to find another school that we would have had to. So based on those 2 reasons, the design we're going to show you today is going to allow us to not have to do that. So the enhancements in this project that you're going to see and I'm going to talk about today it's the main entrance, the security entrance, no more kids walking between buildings. We do add the performing arts that was part of what he wanted. The modernized quality classrooms for the 6 to 8 classes, the industrial, all right?
Where are we at?
Back up one. Right there. The modern classrooms, the career and technical education, people my age, that's shop class. He has a new kitchen and commons, the existing gym renovation, and we're fixing the locker rooms so they're Title IX compliant. And we are expanding the parking coming into this building is what we're doing. So if you would go to the site plan, I'm going to go through some different plans of the building. And one of the things I want to talk about, there's multiple levels here and how it orients on the site. And so Some of that can be confusing, and hopefully by the time we're done, I'm gonna answer a lot of the questions. When you're looking at, this is a site plan with the new building set over the top of the existing school. Everything in yellow is remodeled space. Everything in blue is new space. So this would be the auditorium in that area. Up here is the existing junior high gym. Sunset and north is to the top. West 7th is on the right. Okay, when you look through that. So fixing the circulation around the building and the main entrance, which was one of the big things. The main entrance will be right there. We'll have a one-way traffic pattern coming off of Sunset and a drop-off point for students and buses, and then a parking lot, and everybody will exit on the 7th Street. Then behind the building, on the west side of the existing gymnasium, we have an access that goes down. It's delivery access to the new cafeteria and delivery for large materials to shop. There's also an athletic bus parking space there for events. Right now they're parking on the streets. And we've replaced the teacher's parking lot down there on the south end. So, well, just real quickly, the pictures you're looking at, the top picture would be on Sunset looking south right into the new main entrance. The building on the right is the new 2-story classroom building. And the lower picture is just a zoom up on that main entrance. So as we go through this, when you look at that drawing, you're going to see when we go through this, there's multiple levels in the new building. And there's a reason for that. We're keeping the gymnasium area and the entrance off of Sunset that we have now. And obviously we're tying into the high school. There's 7.5 foot difference between the level of the high school and the main floor of the junior high. The high school is 7.5 foot lower. So if you keep that in mind, when you come in the main entrance, you are at the high school level. Okay? And then we will go up to the first floor of the classrooms. When we get in, it goes up to the floor above us, and you can walk straight out onto Sunset from there. So if you go to the next slide. This is the high school improvements. So when you look on the overall plan, it's down here. As we showed earlier, the existing building is right here. We have the existing auditorium is remodeled into band and choir spaces. We have a new boardroom and a junior senior high library to provide those services. And we have new drama right next to the new auditorium with the commons area on top. So once again, all these spaces are at the high school level. When you walk in the new main entrance right here, you're coming in at the high school level, down low. So if you're dropping off a student, you come off of Sunset, you'll come down and make a left turn, drop the student off at the door, 7.5 foot lower. Does that make sense, Sharon?
Not yet.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get there. The next slide shows the commons area. Again, main level, new kitchen is right here. And then the new industrial arts area, which is also at the high school level. So kids from the high school come over here. They'll just walk right through the hallway into industrial arts, career, and technical education areas. Classrooms, welding spaces, as well as wood shops. Spaces that they don't have now are included in that. We also have a new office area that will be Mr. Lyons and the junior high staff when they come in there. They'll be located, and that's also down at the lower level with the SRO office right there, the safety resource officer at that level. So if you see that, then we have a set of stairs and an elevator right here. You come in the door, that's where you walk up, and when you get to the next page, you're gonna walk up here, turn right, and right here is gonna sit the classroom, the new classroom. So I guess the one thing I should point out, by doing it this way, we can build this part here, well, this building right here from basically that wall over stays in service. So while we do this project, we're still gonna have this school here, all the classrooms here and the lunch services until it's done. And then we move everybody into the new commons lunch area and we'll have new classrooms right there. What we remove is the west wing, which is now the existing shop and shop classrooms and one technology classroom. So we'll have to find a temporary space for just those spaces while we build this new one. And then when all that is built, we take this building down and put a parking lot right here. You're sitting in the new parking lot right now. So as you go up into the classrooms, again, this is the first floor. All right, let's go through the picture we have first. This would be the,
Too fast. Go ahead and go back.
Back up.
There we go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this is the top picture is in the common space. You're on the south side of the commons, far side looking north of the new main entrance. Okay, and then the bottom picture is the opposite. You're walking in the main entrance looking south. The doors on the left that you see is the entrance to the new auditorium right there. And then the glass is the entrance to the boardroom, would be right there. Now move up. And this is the new industrial arts spaces, the top picture being classroom space, that's a drafting classroom. The bottom space is a picture of this industrial arts space. The next one, here's some more pictures. And this is one thing I wanted to show you. It's more pictures. The bottom picture shows a mezzanine that ends up being a storage area for, as you saw in the pictures of the existing shop, they're really tight for storage. We've got a whole mezzanine up above to get the larger stuff out of the way, the materials and handling. And that space up above also ties into the new ag classroom. Now go on to the next. And again, this is some renderings of the new auditorium. One closer, sitting in the audience, and the further one at the back of the auditorium looking at the stage. So now we're really getting into the heart of the project, which is the new classroom wing. And this is the first floor. So remember, the first floor is level with the sunset entrance and the existing gym. Okay, so when you come in, so you walked upstairs right here. You walked in the commons, you walk upstairs where there's an elevator. To the first floor, there's a corridor, and one of the things I want to point out, there's a set of security doors here on this end of the classroom wing. That other end is the gymnasium addition, locker room addition. There's a set of security doors right there, so the classroom wing can be isolated with security. Well, this layout that you're seeing here is basically stacked. This is the lower floor. You're going to see the next one is the floor above it. This one has the 8th grade spaces in it and the resource and ESL classroom. And another thing that's in this project that the school doesn't have now, there's I think 3 study halls in here for study halls. Right now, you come down here in the afternoon, this room's full of study halls with people walking through it all the time, which obviously is an issue for a study hall too. And then as Mr. Norgard said, you can see the locker rooms, they're totally revamped, gutted and started over. And the girls and boys locker rooms are equal. There is an additional advantage to the way these two locker rooms lay out. By closing a door in each of the locker rooms, you can divide it into 4 smaller locker rooms. So you can have it work for basketball or volleyball tournaments, or boys and girls at the same time for the smaller team sports. Obviously, you're not going to get 4 football teams in those smaller locker rooms, but you certainly can divide it up for different tournaments that the school wants to have. And then the gymnasium, as it's oriented, it becomes now a large gymnasium by taking the stage out, as he said. The stage would be on the bottom part of the gym. All the seating moves to one side. And by pushing back the seating and putting a curtain in between, you can run 2 practices in the opposite direction, the direction that they're playing now on the main court. So now we can have 2 teams on that. Okay? This is a rendering of the new gymnasium with the seats extended. So now we moved up to the 2nd floor of the classroom wing. And again, this is stacked right at the top of the classroom before. This has the 6th and 8th grade, or 6th and 7th grade, all 6th and 7th grade classrooms. The 1 8th grade classroom that's in this one is the science. We blocked the science classrooms together for all 3 grades. This also has the shop mezzanine that I talked about is up here at the top, and next to it is the new ag classroom. And again, the security issue, we have to isolate the junior high, there's security doors there, and there's another stairway at the other end for students. There's a security door there. So the classroom will be totally isolated with security doors. On this level 2, the area in red is a upper floor commons area for the junior high kids. They've got, basically, it's a commons area like the high school has, a smaller one. And next to those are some small flex meeting rooms or individual instruction rooms that the school does not have right now. So these next renderings are, and the last ones I'm working on, are the typical classrooms, are the 2 top pictures. The lower left is the center locker area. That's similar on both floors of the classrooms, center lockers. And then the rendering on the right is the small meeting rooms that would be provided. So with that, I'll turn it over to Samson Construction for the construction manager.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Streck. I'm pre-construction manager with Samson Construction. I've been working with the group over the last year on the project. I'm here tonight to briefly educate you a little bit on the CMAR process, what we do as a construction manager, as well as what was the process taken to arrive at that budget, any guarantees as pertains to the budget.
Well, you're getting feedback from this speaker here. Your best bet's to stand right underneath this light.
Okay then. Appreciate that.
No problem. Use it every once in a while.
Back to it. CMAR, the role of that, the process taken to get to the $43.5 million budget, any guarantees as it pertains to that budget, potential areas of where students might be located, and then once we get past that, we'll kind of talk briefly about the just shy of 2-year construction schedule. So what is a construction manager at risk, and what is our role? CMAR is actually a project delivery method in which a construction manager, were hired early on as both Grant and Greg had mentioned. We went through an RFP, an interview process. We were hired, I think it was late 23, if I remember correctly, November, December, sometime in there. But we're hired early so that we can lend a hand and kind of assist in some of those early decision making, in some of that early decision process in the design, kind of advise, we give constructability reviews, we can go in there and we can give some early schedules to kind of show durations of the project. Also, I go in there and I provide cost estimates throughout. Once we get past the design phase, we get past the bond, that thing passes, we get all the way through design. We put shovels in the ground, we then act as a general contractor. We provide the boots on the ground, and we do the work with the help of subcontractors that's hired. From there, prior to that, as Greg mentioned, we established a GMP with the school. That GMP is the guaranteed maximum price, which is going to be that $43.5 million price tag. That's going to include all labor, materials, fees. From there, anything that goes over that, the CM is ultimately responsible for. CMAR can be cost and time efficient, and I like to regard the construction management delivery process as probably the safest for all parties involved. What was the process to arrive at that $43.5 million bond amount? Like Grant had mentioned, we've really worked hard on it over the last year. We got the initial concept design narrative from the W design team. As Grant mentioned, it was at the $56 million price tag. So from there, we had to go through a pretty extensive value engineering process. I believe it came to 25, 30-ish items that we really had to analyze, get some subcontractor input, and ultimately it was just kind of direction to change the design to get that value down. Like I said, none of that was possible without the subcontractors that we reach out to, and so that's been a great help to us. Are there any guarantees as it pertains to the $43.5 million budget? Phase projects that last multiple years don't kind of come as a surprise, so we're able to gauge kind of what the inflation does over a couple year span. And so at these early concept estimates, we try to carry a percentage of whether it's cost escalation or contingencies, knowing that we've still got probably a year until we buy this thing out. Now, as that design farthers and we keep estimating, our escalation minimizes because we know that we're getting closer to buying this thing out. When we send it out for final bid, we will provide the complete schedule that entails every aspect of the project, and we'll lock those prices in at that time. Where will students be located throughout construction? To begin in the spring of 25, I don't think that we're going to have much relocation to deal with because the plan is to start at the auditorium area and work our way to the west. So the day school's out, excavators are coming. From there, once we get into that fall semester, like Greg mentioned, this area will still be able to be used, as well as I think there's mention of the National Guard building just to the south here. But we'll be very diligent with, coordinating with the school on where things are relocated, because student, staff, public safety is our number one priority. With that, let's talk schedule. Here you're seeing us beginning in, this is showing February. Can you pause that by chance? Perfect. So, right now they're currently showing this all coming down. Like I mentioned, we're going to begin dirt work operations here in February, March, so that we can utilize this building until the end of the 25 school. So we'll begin here, into February, March-ish. So yeah, it's actually not here where the start will be. So we'll work this way through those first couple of months, and then like I said, as soon as school's out, that'll go. And then we can really spread out to do dirt work. You can pause it. I didn't realize this thing was so fast. So throughout the May, June, July, August, we're really heavy getting structure up, getting foundations in the ground. So that'll go through the summer of 25. Meanwhile, in the summer of '25, that is our plan to renovate that existing gym. We obviously want to keep it operational throughout both school years. There might be a little bit of lag into one of those, trying to get all of that demoed out. So that's happening while this is going on in the summer months. Go ahead. Oh, it's started, sorry. Demo of the building, dirt work, foundations, structure. From there, we start moving structure towards the north. Following that, obviously, we come in and we start laying some roof. Then we come in and we start, this is like the nucleus of the building. We start doing the rough into the MEP. Interior finishes will be happening at this time, and now we're into the winter months of '26. Once we get through that, we'll then move into some of those exterior finishes so that we can get that side opened up. And then from there, we come in and we tear this end down, get our parking lots done. While we're doing this in these summer months of the '26, that's when we'll be doing the high school renovation. So the junior high gym is to begin, the high school renovation is to end throughout the total 20-month construction process. Obviously, we got some site finishes to do, benches, plants, landscaping, things like that. So that'll be happening, in the summer months of '26. That should be about Try it? All right. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Gross, business manager for McCook Public Schools. And so we're going to cover some financial data with you. I have over here at the side, I'm going to be calling on him for help, is Tobin Buchanan with Northland. He is our MA municipal assistant. So we've contracted with them to give us advice and help us through this process. It's what they do for a living, and so we've reached out to several experts as to this process. So we've talked several times about the bond amount being $43,500,000. That's where we've ended. I will preface, years ago we started this, we talked about 20 million. And then we kind of set a $40 million because we were told that's what it was going to cost. Got up to 56, and now we've worked our way back down through several cuts and things, but keeping our goals. So in today's financial status, the bond amount of 43.5, a 30-year bond. 20-year bonds are kind of unheard of nowadays because of the dollar amounts we're dealing with. So we're looking at a 30-year bond. Bond yield, preliminary numbers we're looking at are 4.3% interest. Our property valuations right now are working about $973 million is the valuations for our district that we're dealing with. So over the course of the life, if we never refi or we never do anything, we'd be looking at an interest payment of $32,250,000 for this bond project. The annual P&I would be about $2.5 million is what we would need to collect from the taxpayers annually. And the new bond levy amount that dictates all of that is 26 cents per $100. So I will obviously see the asterisk on there. The prior bond levy of 55 cents has expired. So I'll touch base on that. So we passed that bond in 2004 and it was 12.5 cents, okay? We refinanced that bond 3 times along the way. The last time we refied it was 4 years ago, okay? We can't pay the bond off until December of 25 because of the finance rules, but as of December of this year, we'll be done collecting. We are not taxing any money on the bond for the 24-25 school year. The 5.5-cent levy dropped off of your taxes. You'll pay the last half of your taxes in December, and then that bond is completely paid off. So over time, what started as a 12.5-cent levy dropped to 5.5-cent levy because of valuation increases, okay? So I wanted to make note of that a little bit with you. I do want to touch base before we switch the slides and talk about the history of our mill levy and what we've been dealing with. So our mill levy, as short as 2021, was $1.12. Valuations, you guys see it, your information comes home, have increased every year over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. As valuations go up, we try to be fiscally responsible and keep our tax asking relatively low. Our mill levy has dropped 22 cents with the expiration of the bonds, the increased valuations. We went from $1.12, and this year we're at 89 cents. So we have worked hard to be fiscally responsible and get that down along the way with conservative budgets. So the total property owner tax impact, 26 cents, $100,000 property is going to be $260 a year, or $21.67 a month. That's on residential property, okay? And you can equate that based off of the valuations that you receive from the county assessor as to what that impact is going to be for you personally, okay? The next one, ag land impact is a whole different calculation. So if your house is valued at $100,000, you pay your taxes on $100,000. If your land is valued for regular general fund, you're valued at 72 cents, is that right?
About 72%.
72%. So your valuation, if your land would be worth $100,000, you're only paying taxes then on $720 of that. When it comes to a bond, LB2 came into place, and any bond that's passed, you only pay bond taxing on 50% of the market value, so there's another reduction. So this is the best case estimate we can have, ag land based at 50%, based upon the average in Red Willow County from the Nebraska Department of Revenue. These are our best estimates for you. That irrigated per acre would be $5.81 or $9.29 for a quarter, dry land $2.61 an acre, and grassland $1.58. So the legislature had passed those. You want to touch base on any
I'll
of
just
that?
share that. So there is a calculator on the website that if you have ag land, you would put in your assessed value. So Mr. Gross is talking about the value you're paying now to normal school taxes. It will convert to what we call the LB2 valuation. It'll convert it to the 50% and multiply it times the levy to give you more of an idea for yourself as an individual. These are just benchmarks to give you a general idea on acre averages across Red Willow.
Okay, thank you, Tobin. So we wanted to touch base on, just let you know, I know the question is going to come up, and it has come up already, about how fiscally responsible is McCook Public Schools. And so this is all data we pulled straight off the Nebraska Department of Education. This isn't stuff that we made up. So cost pupil basis on average daily attendance across the state. There's a wide range of schools here. What are the schools we have up there? First off, we have ESU 15. Those are the schools that are located around us. We're going to be a different category because we're the largest school in that ESU, but that's where you see Hayes Center, Dundee County, Southwest. We also included the schools in our conference, which is the Ogallala, Minden, Holdridge, Broken Bow, Gothenburg. But then we also put the most like schools as McCook, which would be based off of student enrollment and similar factors. They call them our peer schools in Nebraska, and that would be Plattsmouth, Seward, Alliance, Nebraska City, York. So what you're seeing right now is a chart that shows this is based on cost per pupil. The average for the state of Nebraska is in blue, is at $17,500 per kid. And you can see what all the other schools' cost per pupil is, and McCook currently is at $15,900. We have been historically, for as long as we've kept track of this data, in the top 10, 11% in the state. Right, Mr. Bredvik, you've been doing this a long time. So, and you can then see, just based off the bar graph, where we sit compared to this cost per pupil, okay? We'll move on now. This one's a little different. This is how many tax dollars these patrons pay in their district for their school. So when I touch base on this, and to clarify what that means is, the taxpayers of Red Willow School District 17, it costs currently you guys are paying $6,900 of that number before, that 15. The rest of that money is coming from federal and state aid, okay? We are a low valuation district. Without state aid, we would not be able to have our doors open. That's reality, okay? 52% of our school is funded from the local McCook taxpayers. 48% of our school is funded from the state, and 5% of that, little bit of that, is from the federal government for IDA or Title, okay, which are poverty dollars and special ed dollars. So when you take the cost of what all of these same districts across our region are spending locally for their school district, you can see we're at the dead bottom. And even if the bond passes, go back one more, Mr. Norgard, you can see if the bond passes, that would raise, but we would still be at the dead bottom. And then the bar graph gives a greater representation of that. So that is, so we like to believe we've been fiscally responsible. We have, and the data shows that. So, okay? And then here's a scatter plot. Oh, I need to move Mr. Lyons. Here's a scatter plot that shows on the bottom side the local property contribution, and over here cost per pupil. And you can see how the relative line goes up, and in both cases, even in the one where York was spent a little bit more in total per pupil costs, then we bounced back ahead of them. So the scatter plot definitely shows we're in low end. When you compare us to our peers, our conference schools, and then our regional schools, that's just where it is. The data doesn't lie. So do we know 43.5 million is a lot? Do we know 26 cent no levy is a lot? Yeah, but this is the plan that we felt was best to put forward. So, okay. Our bond website is, I think you guys are all here because you've seen it. It's very informational. We got a lot of stuff on there. There's renderings, there's videos, Sampson Construction, W Design, Northland, everybody's done a great job and contributed, making sure we want the taxpayers, we want everybody that showed up tonight to feel comfortable being educated, okay? And so we wanted to make sure we had a very conclusive bond website on. Okay, now we're ready for frequently asked questions, and I'm going to Grant and I are going to tag team this and then take some questions.
All right, this is a more detailed version of the timeline that we have wanted to share with everyone. We felt that this timeline really helped educate people about the process in greater detail. So if you can see on this timeline, it kind of goes back and forth. So 2013 is above, from 2018 to 2021 below. And this is on the website. And so if there's anything that I covered too quickly or you didn't quite understand, go to the website and check out this timeline. And why do I want to share this? Well, 2013, I mentioned that in the first part of the presentation, but it really talks about how we started looking at this facility over a decade ago, and how we really were concerned at that. We had engineers look at it. We knew that this building would, I'm going to reiterate some things I said earlier, we knew that this building was going to need to be addressed either at that time, we thought as a remodel or as a new construction if remodel wasn't practical. Also within this, you can see in this little box, have some of those goals that we identified at the very beginning. when we designed the property, we talked to the architects and engineers, what is it that we wanted to accomplish? I think when you look at that, you're going to see that our goals are very reasonable and very practical. I remember one of the first conversations I had with Mr. Wolford and his architecture team is, we're not looking to build Kearney High School. We're fine with rectangles and squares and facilities that are just practical. Number one concern, make sure we have great learning environment for our students. We want great classrooms where kids can focus and concentrate. So you can read through that. If you read through this, if you look from 2018 through 2021, you can see all the steps that the board took. We had the building looked at again during that time. And had some more information. At that time, I actually thought maybe a remodel was possible. So we started talking about maybe we can come in here and do some things with this building. But then we go a little bit further, go to 2021, when we actually had a really in-depth look at the building. Mr. Wolford already talked about that. You can see our first advertisement in the paper was July 16, 2021, when we notified the community. We're looking at a potential remodel. We're looking at a potential new build. We need to do something for our junior high. And it brings us, again, I encourage you to go to the website and check this out and see all the things, all the processes that took place. But then right here at the end, right now, this is what we're doing. We're talking about educating everybody in the room, educating the community, and answering questions from our folks.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and talk about why a 100-year plan. I know Mr. Wolford touched on it, and Mr. Norgard. So we paid off an elementary bond. It took us 20 years, 04 to 24. If this bond passes and we build a new junior high, we're asking for it to last 100 years, from 2024 to, I don't even know the math, 2024, that sounds weird, but that's a long time, okay? 30 years from now, when that paid off, that high school was built in 1955. Part of this project is new arts, industrial arts, fine arts, but the learning environment over there is going to need to change 30 years from now. So then we fast forward, we build a new high school, we attach it over here. We've already got a 100-year plan that we designed and us at the next Board of Education and people want to look at. So then you do 30 years, well that makes this building 30 years old by the time that's done, or the high school that paid off is 60 years old, and now our elementary schools, Central's built in 1985. McCook Elementary, although it remodeled in 2004 and a bunch of new, but the original part of that building, I don't even know when that was built, 54. So you can see we got to build, whatever we're going to put money into has to last, or we're right back on top.
So you can see what Mr. Gross is talking about here when we talk about looking at a building. We started working on the high school 40 years out. We thought if we invest in the high school, it can last another 40 years. Well, that was 10 years ago. So now we're looking at 30 years. What he's saying is absolutely correct. The high school is going to have to be addressed in 30 years. The longer that we wait to address the junior high, the more likely we are to have to double up on our bonds. These construction projects are very expensive. And I don't think that, we felt compelled to put this before the community at this time. The elementary bond's dropping off. The high school's going to have to be addressed in 30 years. We just can't wait. This is the time. We felt, and the board felt, that this was the time to put this before the community for a decision. And everything, I can only reiterate what Jeff said about the rest of it. And it's absolutely true. I think that yours ready for questions, or do you have some more? Do you want me to read through the whole thing?
No, I think we opened it up.
I think that, did someone say yes?
Some
I
people
thought
don't want to get on the tour.
Sharon said yes, so we're gonna. I'm kidding. All right, so
I think.
let's ask some questions.
Ask some questions, no questions bad. We'll repeat it or we'll bring the mic to you. We got all of our experts to help out.
Am I able to do this, Chad? All right, do you think you have a loud enough voice?
Yeah,
All right.
I'm good. So my question is, we're going for a 100-year plan, right?
Yep.
What's wrong with the junior high now? What's causing the structure to fail? Have we identified that? And if we isolated it or guaranteed that the next building won't suffer the same fate, right? It's water damage, right? That's what's causing the foundation to sink?
Yeah.
Have we identified that?
Yeah, we have. It's the area where you'll see if you take the tour. There's a main bathroom right up there, and it's right in that part of the building. There's obviously a water leak under that area that saturated it. I did this structural review of it, so everybody, the building's not gonna fall down, your kids aren't in danger, but it's gonna have to be fixed, and the fix, if you were gonna fix it here, it's a total, gut the entire space, dig out all saturated dirt and put it back and then replace the bathroom.
So is that water coming from a utility line, a water line or something?
I'm guessing
Or is it
it's either a water line or a sewer line over the years, just shifted a little bit and started leaking a little bit over time.
We imagine, but we also, if you take the tour, you come out this back door, drive on Sunset, everything runs downhill. We're actually building a wall over here right now to divert water because everything comes off and comes right down in back here. When it gets down in there, where are we going with it? We don't know.
So I guess that leads me to another question. I'm sorry, I don't
Yep,
want to
you're
step on
good.
anybody, but if a leaking pipe is leaked long enough that it's causing foundational issues in this building, are the pipes in the new building accessible, so if one was to start to leak, we'd be able to isolate it and fix it without tearing up the whole foundation?
Sure, good question.
That will be addressed in the design, yes.
So the question was about, in the new design, if, and this is for folks that might be at home, it was a question about the water, or the reason that the building's foundation's cracking and settling in a portion of our junior high. And we believe that's a water or sewer line leakage that's causing that for the building to sink. And then the follow-up question was about the new design. Are we going to make sure that the new design wouldn't put us in the same position? And that is something that gets into the more detailed portion of it. If the bond passes, that's when we start getting into the real nitty-gritty, because it takes a lot of time and energy. But making sure that we would have access to water lines, access to sewer lines, so that we wouldn't have to deal with the same situation. And that would be, we would do that in the new design during the design process, make sure that doesn't happen again.
And I would also reiterate, at the high school, which is an older facility, we do have access underneath in our tunnels, so we can get in and see all of that and fix and repair. This building was not built that way. We have no access to that.
Yeah, a lot of buildings in the 50s were built with those crawl spaces, was actually a really good idea. This building, I think, I better not comment, I can only speculate that maybe we ran into some financial troubles when we built this building, but that doesn't have the same type of structure.
Hi. Me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. My husband and I went to school here. We, 2001, 2, 3, 4, in there. So we graduated from McCook School. We
Yeah.
know what this is like. We are by no means against this at all. Our kids are going to go through this. We are farmers. We have questions. So we did the math. If we own 10 quarters of land, okay, so 10 quarters irrigated land, does that mean for the next 30 years, we are going to have to pay $9,280 every single year?
That would be a 30, and I can't confirm the mathematics, but the bond it's a 30-year bond, so you have to pay on that until the bond is paid off. We hope we can do some refinancing along the way. Mr.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Your math is correct. What we've presented tonight is a snapshot in time. If all the bonds are issued at this rate, at current valuations, what you're describing, because we showed an irrigated quarter would be about a little under $1,000, so your math is correct. If it's never refinanced, never paid off early, the current bond was refinanced 3 times, probably saved about $1 million in interest on a just under $6 million bond. Those opportunities almost always present themselves. I will not guarantee it, but bonds of any length get refunded historically. So will you realize all of that? You're still talking big number, I understand.
Yes.
Will you actually realize all of that over time? I don't think so, but we would never stand up here and say, no, it's going to be refinanced, you're going to save this much, this rate's going to be lowered, etc.
There are regulations on refinancing and time periods that a bond has to be in existence before we can refinance. But we were, like Mr. Gross had pointed out, on the last bond issue, able to refinance. I think we refinanced 3 times since I've been here, so on the old elementary bond. But we can't guarantee that.
it's generally not any different than your home mortgage, with one exception, and Tobin can beat me up for this, for saying it this way. We have a 5-year lockout on initial bond issues generally, and because of that, you have to wait 5 years before the opportunity is available.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple of questions came up. Your plan is to take the buses off of Sunset and then back on to 7th Street. Is that going to eliminate parking on those two streets? Off-street parking?
The question was about bus parking going off of Sunset, and is that relocated to 7th? In this design, we actually have bus parking. When we talk about the activities busing, we have activities back here. When we talk about just daily pickup and drop off, there is a design built in, it'll be inside the parking lot and the drop off pickup lane for buses to park to pick up and drop off students, which actually is part of one of our safety concerns. If you come here today, our route buses park right here on the street. This gets it off the street. Activities will be behind the school back here.
Right now, all those activity
Oh, I'm sorry.
buses line up over here. They'll all be gone off of that street, and then all the busing, they'll still come down Sunset, turn in, drop off, pick up, and then leave, but there
That's
won't
what
be
I'm
any bus
saying. Do you
parking.
have to remove the parking on that street so they can turn in and turn
Oh, I got
off?
you. Close to that parking lot area, we wouldn't have any parking there because of where the gymnasium sits. So right now, that's all yellowed anyway.
So they would have room to turn in with it and leave
Yeah.
parking
Yeah.
on those streets.
Yeah, we would definitely want to design that so those buses could get in there and have access to those kids, so.
The
Well,
other,
one of the biggest
the other-
problems is pickup of students, the parents will come in and they'll park, whether it's a yellow line, sometimes it's on your driveway, and there can be cases where they'll pull in your driveway
Yeah.
and wait for the students, so.
Are you concerned specifically about that bus parking, parents pulling in there, or just along the street there?
Along the street.
Along the street, yeah.
And that has become a problem.
And we don't have a parking lot, so we're trying to alleviate that by
Yeah.
getting them into a parking lot to drop off.
Yeah.
One of our issues is parking, and we have some other, in one of the more expensive designs, we had put diagonal parking along Sunset and widening, which would allow for traffic flow, better traffic flow on Sunset, but we had to remove that. It's not that we can't do that at some point in the future, but those funds would have to come through a different source. So maybe I'm incorrect, but.
Well, no, you're correct. You look at the traffic in McCook, I'm also the street superintendent for the city, but, the two busiest places in McCook is right out here at 8 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and over at McCook Elementary at the same time, because of the way our society has changed and how we pick and drop off kids. So the whole idea of this, right now, your streets, the homes along here are blocked every morning and every afternoon. It's the way it is. That's what you're telling us. We know that. So this plan is to try and get that traffic off the street and onto school property, so it's not so crowded on the street. That's the whole idea.
When it's quitting time, what do you want to do? Get in, get out.
We know that, but by having the entrance pushed off, the idea is hopefully they'll come around, and there is space that's wider along the street where we can have parents picking up right along this way, and then the buses are turning the corner and room to park a couple buses there and load them up and get them out of there. So hopefully it will happen, but we got to get them off the street. That's the whole idea.
I'm giving you a personal guarantee, no parents will park over there. Do you believe me? I'm just joking. We'll work on it.
Is that some land for itself?
Wait, that's not being recorded, is it? What other questions do we have? Another one here?
I have another one on the roof that's proposed. It looks awfully flat.
The roof is flat, yes, question about this, the roof.
Problems down the road with the flat roof?
Yeah, we talked about roofs, and one of the things we asked about was a metal corrugated slanted roof, and part of the roof, I think a portion of it does have that where we can. It's just the difference in cost is so significant, and we're talking a very significant difference between the flat roof and the angled metal roof, that we decided just to get the cost down, we went back to a flat roof. Am I correct on that? I'm getting nods from the architects and engineers.
Our EPDM roofs, don't they have sometimes better warranties? Yeah, so there's better warranties too with EPDM flat roofs. We call them minimally sloped, they still do sloped
Yeah.
roof drains.
It's got a taper to a roof drain.
So,
Yeah, so they have a longer warranty, it sounds like. So that's a positive to the flat roof. But we did look at it, and it's cheaper. I know there's other questions out there.
Yeah, I actually have a few.
Yeah.
Is this the bare minimum design that you guys came up with, or did you throw some fat in on it?
And the question is this the bare minimum design that we have come up with? My response would be to that it was fatter at one time, and we tried to get it down. You know, when we first started talking about this project, we were thinking, well, maybe we can do this for 20 million. Talked to some engineers, looked at the square footage we need, and then we thought maybe we can do this, we doubled it. And no one wanted to do that, we thought maybe we could do this for 40 million. So then they went through a preliminary conceptual design of the project, based on the things that we really thought were important, our 5 goals I kind of referenced at the beginning. And when that estimate came back, it was $56 million. And from that point, we started cutting, and we were cutting things, cutting square footage, cutting the size, the number of classrooms, cutting seats out of the auditorium, removing any type of, I believe that we removed fat from this project. That's my opinion of it. And I think and one of the things, like I said, when I sat down with Greg and the design team at the beginning was, I don't need a Kearney High School. I want a practical building, squares and rectangles, but a good space for our kids and a good place for our kids to learn. And still something that the community would still be proud of, obviously. So I don't believe that there's fat in it.
In fact, you trimmed some off to be specific.
Yeah, we have trimmed off quite a bit of square footage
Well, yeah.
and design materials. Yeah, we've reduced glass. We've reduced the expensive materials are gone from this project. So we're trying to find the most economical way to build this building. To be quite honest with you.
Very good. Did you guys pursue any federal aid or grants on this project?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we wanted to see was, is there grant support for this type of projects? And there really isn't. When we went and looked at federal grants, there's all kinds of grants for small projects. You can find some grants for parochial schools. But when it comes to public schools, there's just not grants that are out there for the construction of schools. My thought on that, I don't know why that is. People just expect communities or states to build schools. My other thought on it was, if there were, they would be so highly competitive, it would be almost impossible to get one. But there really aren't any. If you know of one, contact me, but we have not. And we're part of a grant finding committee, and there's just basically nothing out there.
Sure. Will sales tax be included on this, or is it just property tax?
It's just property tax.
Okay. All right, very good. You guys got a plan B? If the bond doesn't pass, what happens to the school?
What do you mean? The bond might not pass? No, I'm kidding. That's a really good question. And I think that I might have some thoughts in my head, and Mr. Gross might, the board might, but, other than the fact that we know that we have to do something for our junior high students and for our kids that are performing in industrial arts, I don't think we have an official plan. I think my sense is that we would want to come back with something, listen. My sense is we'd want to do that. My fear is that if it doesn't pass now, it'll be even harder to pass in the future because of costs going up. It's just constant, costs go up. So, and then design costs and everything's expensive. Everything is expensive. So, do we have it, Tom? Do we have it, Brad?
Well,
Any answer to those? Scott, my board members.
One of the things, if it doesn't pass and we do have to bring it, if it doesn't pass and we do have to bring it back to the community again for a vote, we would have to cut out some of the things that we have identified as goals for it. I can use an example of cutting out the auditorium, but then students are affected by that are going to be doing things in those areas. And so we feel like we've cut a lot of stuff out as far as square footage and materials. We don't want to cut stuff that is going to affect the students in the future. And we want students to get a good education, a quality education, and come back to our community.
I asked the same exact question in the beginning of this process many years ago, and that was what happens when the community votes and we have some alterations we need to make. But what I wanted to share with you is, just as an example, Brad said, well, what about this part or what about that part? I don't think we realize until you step back. I asked both both principals, the junior high and high school, for an estimate. I may have asked your staff member, Mr. Lyons, said I'm being completely honest, not you. How many kids are in the drama, band, music environment? And being the kid that was the band geek and loved being, and sorry that I label it that way, but that was me. I wasn't good at football, look at me. The idea, though, that 80% of our student body float through drama, music, choir in one fashion, or band. 80% of our students are impacted with what some of you clearly don't go support. I don't make it to as many plays and things as I should, but that's their home. That's where they spend their time. So we have a very high correlation in performing arts and a very high correlation in VOTEC. So we end up with the best classrooms we can get in this project. What's our plan B? I'm not on the board anymore, as of the end of this year. My plan B will try to get in front of those of you that doubt it and try to do more, because this plan is cheaper today than when we bring it back to you next time. Because this is the minimum of what we need for our kids.
Thank you, Tom. And he's correct. Almost all of our students are in the performing arts and in industrial arts. And we try to impact as many kids as we could, 6-12. And so that's why it's really a junior high, senior high project when you think about what we're doing here. The renovations at the high school and the new construction, that impacts almost every single student in both of these buildings. There'll be a very, very few that won't be directly impacted. Remember, this is the lunchroom too, in the commons area. So this impacts a lot of kids. And at some point, initially it's going to be a junior high library, but at some point in the future it could be consolidated with the high school. So even in the future, it could even be more involved with us, with the senior high students.
Do you have it broken down, given that 15% of the houses in town are a homestead exemption and don't pay any tax? It seems like that the farm community is going to pay for this.
Well, it's hard for me to talk to those numbers specifically. I don't have a top of my head. Our valuations, 23% of our valuations come from ag land. So most of our general fund budget comes from residential and commercial. Is there anything?
So right now, 23% of your valuation's ag land. If you factor in LB2, that legislation that takes it down to 50%, it actually shifts it to 17% of the tax base for the bond would be ag land, and the rest would be property. Now, property includes residential, commercial, and property on the farm.
Right.
So I'm just saying 17% would be ag land, and the rest would be everybody's property, dwellings, farm buildings, all of that put together.
So I don't think it can be said that it would be heavily weighted on ag as a group, but so the residential and commercial property is going to pay the bulk of the bond.
Phil, the LB2 that was passed was specifically put in place to get rid of that imbalance in the agriculture world, so that it softened that. It was done to reduce the valuation by half.
So,
And to be true, it shifted it somewhat. So, if there was no LB2, your bond levy, we'd be talking about 24 cents instead of 26 cents. But because ag land's reduced and there's a lower valuation for the bond payment alone, it ups that levy a little bit. So it puts it a little more on property, a little less on ag land.
yes.
My question is, in this 43 million, how much is this going to be with the furniture? If you think of it that way, what is the bond for strictly construction-wise, and what are you bringing in for the furniture for these kids in the city?
Yeah, the plan that is in place does not include furniture. So a lot of our furniture is going to be the tables you're sitting at right now are going to be moved into a new facility. There could be contingency funds, but I don't want to say for sure every classroom is going to have new desks in it. One of the things when we've gone to the high school, after we did a high school classroom, so when we did a remodel, we did 2 to 3 classrooms a year. When we did those remodels, brand new desks, brand new teacher desks, brand new student desks. That's the plan we have. If we can't use bond funds for those purchases, then we're going to do the same thing here at the junior high. So new furniture will eventually be in this building, potentially right away, but if not, we'll work through each classroom one by one and get new furniture in it.
And we do have funds set aside, and we have some depreciation fund dollars, and we have lunch fund dollars. I'm just gonna use the word, I've been rat holing every dollar I can, building our lunch fund up, that when we move over, we'll be able to build practically a new kitchen. We'll be able to take our coolers and things that have all been purchased in the last 5 to 7 years. But as far as the serving tables and the dishwashers, we're gonna have to buy some new, but we've been saving money in anticipation of that.
On that comment, Mr. Rose, why have we not started saving money for the future of a project like this?
Because in order for us to save money for a future like this, we would have had to tax everybody more along the way.
But you just said you're squirreling some of the money away for this and that. Why
Well-
couldn't we squirrel another?
I can swirl money away in the lunch fund to build a new cafeteria, but I can't swirl money away in the general fund for a new bond. And we have been remodeling the high school, so 3 to 4 rooms a year is extensively expensive, and we've done that over the course of 10 years. Our last major project 2 years ago, we remodeled our last office area where we gutted the superintendent and business and finance office, and we did that through the course of a summer. A few years before that, in 2016, we did have to hire contractors, and we redid the complete high school office and counseling offices. And so we've been paying for those along the way, but we couldn't pay for those along the way and save money for a bond at the same time. And I will also touch base, HVAC is a 4-letter word in my world, okay? And if you own a home, you know what I'm talking about. In the last year, and I didn't budget for this because you can't, I budgeted about $100,000 for HVAC repairs. In the last year, McCook Public Schools has incurred $560,000 in HVAC damage through storms and things going out that you can't plan for. When the chiller just blows or we blow a line, and we had that nasty freeze last January and it froze up coils and busted lines. So we're playing this constant game of catching up with our facilities.
Yeah, those lunch fund dollars actually come from a different source, and you have to pay for lunch items with those. You're not supposed to go out.
Can't buy a scoreboard?
You can't buy, you're not supposed to buy scoreboards. Anyway, we'll see how that all goes down. So, and actually, if you, in this room, Mr. Lyons, how old are these tables?
Some of them are as new as, 5 years,
So-
15 years. Some of the older ones probably 15. We replaced them as a damage.
Yeah, so okay, I thought they were a little newer than that, but I should have asked.
I do think there's a piece that needs to be understood. The way that my finance works at home in my house, my wife gives me a list of priorities on the house, and we save for them. I understand that, and that's a very good point. But under state statute on how we can tax you, we're not allowed to carry cash. I want you to think about this from we're allowed to, but it's a margin for safety so that we can operate. Our depreciation fund, the item 20 years ago, this school cut ag. 21 years ago, this school cut. I can look out in the audience, and I know some of you know that. It's back. Why am I going to bring that point up? It's back because the community told us it was a priority, and we figured how to get it back into the programs. Good board members back then fought for that. They had the ability to include it in the general fund request. But if I try to save as a school district $5 or $7 million to put a dent in this number, the state and the state auditors are going to tell us that we're in violation of state statute and state budgeting rules. We are given the opposite approach for budgeting. You're allowed to take up to $1.05 of levy and you can't carry more than X% of your budget in cash. And that includes your depreciation fund, which buys buses and phone systems and electrical wiring. So saving money on the side might work in our personal homes very well to pay for something in the future, but in a school district without an active foundation, well, we have a foundation. The idea is it's nearly impossible.
So I'll put a wrap on this topic, and we can answer any more, but we're at $1 billion valuation. So every penny creates $100,000 for McCook schools. I told you earlier our mill levy's at 89 cents. For us to generate $1 million extra a year, we would have to raise 10 cents, which would make your mill levy then, instead of 89.5, it would be 99.5. And so we'd be collecting that much more tax dollars, but you'd be paying for it. When that happens and we collect that excess money, then our state aid would go down. So we would be punished from the state for that. So it's a taxing formula game that we play with the state to try and be as efficient as we can. So.
All right. Yeah, if any folks would like to take a tour of the facility and check it out, because we have Mr. Lyons here. He does a wonderful tour. If you wonder if the spaces need to be addressed, go on the tour. If you question that, please take the tour. If you know the spaces need to be addressed, I still encourage you to take the tour. So. And then we're going to also have Mr. Dickus and Mr. Curl. Is Mr. Curl here? Mr. Curl will show you the auditorium and spaces at the high school as well.
So Mr. Norgard and I and some of the guys that help present will stay here if you have more questions and want to sit and talk. And at those other open houses, we will be here to answer questions and just be a little less casual about it. But I think what we'll do is Mr. Dickus and Mr. Curl are going to go over here, and Mr. Lyons is going to go over here and get ready to do. You can go to either side, and we will kind of coordinate meeting in the middle and swapping groups to be able to see if you want to see both ends. But we'll have a group heading over to the high school to look at the auditorium of band and choir, and a group over here to look at that. So.
And if you don't have time, the website is also an awesome place to go get information. And on the very far right side of the website is an FAQ. It stands for Frequently Asked Questions. Please access that. If there's something that you think of later, go and see if there's an answer on the website. There might be an answer there for you. Mary?
I'll just do this. Mary Doolin, retired teacher after 38 years, been retired for 10. I was the second 7th grade class in this brand new building, so it's been a while. But I want you, as you go through the tour, to notice the room sizes. In the 60s, the latter part of the 60s, if there was a movement in education called open classroom. And it was because, they wanted, that's why we have these accordion doors. And if you would look at the room sizes are small because the intention was to open up the accordion doors, and you could have 4 classrooms together. They just felt that regular classroom was crushing creativity at that time. I have to tell you, after doing a little bit of research on this recently, this movement lasted 12 years, maybe. So we have been living with a movement that was for open-air classrooms, a lot of hands-on collaboration between kids and teachers, which we can do, still. But this building was created with that in mind. So I want you to notice the classrooms are small, and that there's no sound barrier with those accordion doors. And you might also notice that there's not much for shelving and storage, and these teachers have to deal with that. So that's just my input.
Thank you.
Who's over here, Mr. Lyons? And then Mr. Dickus and Mr. Curl over here. So if you'd like to start junior high over here and high school.